Welcome to my Sodality, my pride with Sacred Heart Sodality, right here on Radio Veritas TV.
Ukuze thula enhlizweni kaJesu eyingcwele kakhulu. Jesu othandekayo msindisi wesintu. Akusibheke nakho siguqe ngokuzithoba phambi kwelathi lakho. Singabakho sithanda ukuba ngabakho njalo. Kepha kuze ukuzihlanganisa kwethu nawe kuye kugcine njalo. Bheka yilowo kuthina osezethula ngokujabula enhlizweni yakho eyingcwele kakhulu. Oh, baningi abangazange bakwazi, baningi futhi abadelele imithetho yakho bakulahla.
Let's find peace with him and in him. Let's allow him actually to take us from our weak realities and use those weaknesses, like Paul says it clearly, that when I'm weak, I'm therefore strong.
Yiba inkosi, ungabi nje eyamakholwa angabonanga esuka kuwe qha, ube yiyona nakubantwana bakho abalahlekileyo abakushiyile. Yenza ukuba basheshe babuyele ekhaya kuyise, funa bafe usizi nendlala. Yiba inkosi yalabo futhi abaphanjwe izimfundiso ezingeyizo, neyalabo abaqembukile kuwe ngokwambuka. Babize babuyele enqabeni yeqiniso nasebunyeni bokholo. Yikhona kuzawushesha kube isibaya sinye noma lusimunye. Nkosi, yipha ibandla lakho inhlalakahle nolondeko nenkululeko. Uphe izizwe zonke ukuthula nokuhleleka. Ayituswe, iyaziswe kuze kube phakade.
Welcome to my Sodality, my pride with Sacred Heart Sodality, right here on Radio Veritas TV. This is the second episode. In last week's episode, we heard from Meg Bridget, who is the secretary of the Metro, the Johannesburg Metro, and we also heard from Med Pindi Kalinge, who is the president of the Sacred Heart Sodality in the Archdiocese of Johannesburg. They really took us to the roots of the Sacred Heart Sodality, how it came about, how it started, the actual devotion to the Sacred Heart, as well as the Sacred Heart Sodality itself. Very enlightening conversations happened. And today, I've got the pleasure of being with young people who are part of the Sacred Heart Sodality. I am with Ntate Thuntsi. I am with Boitumelo Masokeng and Ntate Lesego Ditlhareng. And they are young members, as you can see, from the Sacred Heart Sodality. They're going to share their journey with us. But for now, let's get to know them a bit better. Ntate Tlotliso, how are you?
Very well, yourself, man.
Awesome. Thank you very much for being on my Sodality, my pride. Just share with us, who is Ntate Tlotliso?
Ntate Tlotliso Thuntsi is a Sacred Heart Sodality member from the Val Deanery in the Archdiocese of Johannesburg, from a parish called Ditlhareng in Masokeng. Ntate Tlotliso has been with the Sodality since from 2017 up until now. And I must say it has been quite a journey to be here up until now. Joining the Sodality from then up until now, it has had its own ups and downs. Maybe we'll get into those.
Definitely. We'll definitely get into them. Thank you very much for being here and welcome. Boitumelo Masokeng. Just share briefly, who is Boitumelo?
Boitumelo Masokeng from Klerksdorp Diocese, residing in St. Paul Parish in Joburg. Boitumelo is the Sacred Heart members as a secretary. So, as a Sacred Heart member, it has quite been a nice journey for me, whereby we had our own issues, but that didn't determine serving the Lord. Yes. So as a Sacred Heart member, I'm very pleased and happy because I'm in a happy place.
Wonderful. And we're going to hear more about your journey, And I like what you said, that you're not deterred because you knew what you're doing and why you're doing what you're doing. But we're going to find out more about that during the course of the program. And then we have the youngest, I need to say this, the youngest president nationally. Initially, I said in the Johannesburg metro or in the metros. No, the youngest president nationally. How are you, Ntate Lesego Ditlhareng?
Good, thanks, ma'am.
Awesome. Just tell us briefly, who is Ntate Lesego?
Oh, I'm from Our Lady of Lutz Parish in Klerksdorp, in Wolmaranstad, Klerksdorp Diocese. I've been a member, actually joined the Sodality while I was an altar server, started just briefly attending with them in high school and only became a full member at the age of 24. And my journey has been quite great with them. The blessings are abundant.
Wonderful. Yeah. So you've been a member before you could even qualify to be a member.
Yeah.
So you knew that this is your home for you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Ntate Lesego. And we're going to hear more from our guests. But for now, we're going to take a short break. You are still tuned into My Sodality, My Pride, right here on Radio Veritas TV.
Multinational hustler. Hustler is what echoes in my mind. You see, you'll be surprised to find out how far you can go from the moment you thought it was the end of you. So be a hustler. The sleepless nights, the anxiety, the fear of being called a failure to grab an opportunity to fly, to explore, and to conquer, to be a hustler. Still contemplating? Well, the streets are not empty. So is your head, let alone your bookshelf. So get up, rise up, and stay up. Hustler, be a multinational hustler.
Welcome back to My Sodality, My Pride with Sacred Heart Sodality right here on Radio Veritas TV. I'm still in the company of some of the youngest members of the Sodality, Ntate Tlotliso, Boitumelo, and Ntate Lesego, and they briefly just shared about who they are. We're not going to get into them and the Sacred Heart Sodality. We want to get to understand, because they're quite young, what made them join this particular sodality? Are there any external influences? What is it about the Sacred Heart Sodality where they said, this is my home? Before the break, Ntate Lesego, you mentioned that you're part of the sodality even when you were an altar server. And my understanding is that you need to be at least 18 years old. So for me, that tells me that you really wanted to be part of it. You're longing to be part of it until you were able to officially qualify to be part of the sodality. What is it about the sodality that you so wanted to be a part of?
It's for me the spiritual life that they lead. These people are so dedicated to prayer. I was quite fascinated by that because I was at a point in life where I thought to myself, after I reached the age limit of altar serving, what is next? So I wanted to explore. And for me, I think it was the only option. It was either this or to become a priest. And at the time, there was not much support for me to become a priest. Otherwise, I would have become a priest. So this was the next best thing. This was the closest thing for me to Jesus. Dedicating yourself to his heart, living according to the values of Jesus's heart. Yeah.
As an altar server, you get to see the different sodalities, the different groups in the parish. So there's obviously something about the sodality that really drew you to it. Do you recall a moment when you actually started noticing this particular sodality, the Sacred Heart Sodality?
Funny thing is that at the time, Sacred Heart was only for those old people in their late 50s, 60s upwards. So for me to actually join it now full time was because this other gentleman who was in my SCC, the late Ntate he had already passed on, but I kept seeing him in my prayers coming to fetch me to go to the sodality.
Wow.
Yeah, so he kept coming to fetch me to go to the sodality. We would go, but then the dream would stop after we leave the house. So I said, maybe that's a calling.
That's very powerful.
Yeah.
Wow. And you happen to be the youngest president in the sodality nationally. How were you elected? Like, what happened leading up to your election, and were you up for it?
That was a moment. So that day, we had quite a few strong candidates who were vying for that position. So there was no one standing for my deanery, and because the person that we had to nominate for our deanery had passed on, unfortunately. So there was no one standing for our deanery. So then they pushed me to go and stand for the deanery, and surprise, surprise.
You're the president.
Yeah. We weren't expecting it, really.
We'll come back and touch on that again. But for now, Boitumelo, please take us through your journey. How did you know that the Sacred Heart Sodality was the sodality for you?
There was a point in life where my dad didn't stop me on serving the Lord. I told myself, I'm going to do this. I'm going to continue serving the Lord. And then the loudest word came from above, asking, Lord, whom shall we go? Quoted from John chapter 6, verse 39. And the answer was quite simple. It was quoted from a hymn of the Sacred Heart. Morena, re ka balela ho mang? Hobane re mafutsana. It was quite a question, very difficult for me, when the Lord said, whom shall I go? But the answer was very simple. Even though in the difficulties, as youth, we had no direction. We were longing. We didn't have much support, but you chose, as an individual, you get to sit and have some self-introspection that, do I need to do this? Do I need to stop going to church, serving the Lord? But as a person, myself, I sat down and told myself, I'm doing this. And having to join Sacred Heart was the best thing, because I've grown and Sacred Heart has never stopped me to outsourcing my talents.
That's so beautiful. And you know what you shared about youth. Someone else could have said, there's nothing for me here as a young person, and leave the church. But you're like, there's nothing here. You're not very happy here, but you did something about it, and you stayed within the church, and you're growing within the church.
Yes.
Oh, thank you very much for sharing that. Ntate, Tlotliso, please share your story. How did you come about? How did you know that the Sacred Heart Sodality is the sodality for you?
Maybe I would say it comes from home, in terms of grandparents, aunties, and my mom as well. Everybody has been a Sacred Heart member. But myself, as Ditlhareng said, I was an altar server myself. And whilst being an altar server, I'm very much exposed to different priests. And priests hold this Sacred Heart devotion very close. And you take things like the first Friday, the first Sunday. Normally, you would have a benediction. The priest would normally have a benediction, and then to say, please say your Boitumelo. With time, I found myself being very much familiar with this and getting into it and knowing Boitumelo whilst you are still an altar server. And when you look at the benediction itself, going through that, just that devotion of benediction, as an altar server kneeling there by Father and assisting him with everything that he may need, you get into this thing that each and every first Friday you need to be doing this, and then you get home also. Mama now you get exposed to this Sacred Heart, and then you fall in love with it. You fall in love with it to such an extent that even when one went to varsity, going within acts and all, you always had being adult supporters and being there for you guys. And you're like, I would really love to be like Ntate Lesego at some point. I would really love to see myself being like Mema Mokoena. So those are the things that were happening around me. this is the sodality for me. This is where I can find a home. This is where I can grow my faith going forward.
Thank you very much, Ntate Thuntsi, for sharing. As you're talking, what came to mind is a family of Sacred Heart Sodality members. I could picture all of you guys now standing together, wearing your uniform. That would be a beautiful, beautiful picture indeed. Now, the Feast of the Sacred Heart of Jesus, or the Solemnity of the Sacred Heart of Jesus, falls on the first Friday after Corpus Christi. And in 2023, this happened on the 16th of June, which happens to be National Youth Day in South Africa. You being young, you being part of the youth of the Sodality, what does it mean for you when your feast day is on Youth Day? We'll start with you, Ntate.
This was quite a good opportunity for us to show the church in general that Sacred Heart also has the potential to attract young people, you understand? And it was also a chance for us as young members of the Sodality to say, we are here, we bring our talents, we can help to grow this Sodality, we can help to take it further. So I think it was quite a good coincidence for those two to be together. Yeah.
And with the Sacred Heart Sodality, there's so much diversity: men, women, young, not so young. But from having this conversation with you, it's evident that you feel you've got a home in the Sacred Heart Sodality. And when I engage with older members of the Sacred Heart Sodality, they also feel they have a home. Now, you as young people, and to you, Boitumelo, as a young person, what makes the Sacred Heart Sodality home for you?
Yes, what makes a Sacred Heart Sodality home? It is a home indeed, because you get into the Sodality, you will never feel discriminated or feel any younger. Your decisions are being taken. You've got a chance to explore, share whatever thought you have. You will never get to be called a young person or so forth. We are united. You will find a mom, a dad in the Sodality. It's a home for me. Yes.
And you've got a voice. I guess that's the essence of it. It's not a case of you are so many years old in the Sodality, therefore you can then qualify to be in the leadership. As young as you are seen for who you are and what you do in the Sodality. Hence, you were elected into the leadership. That is really powerful. Now, Ntate Tlotliso, in terms of the young people in the Sacred Heart Sodality, what are some of the activities that you guys do as the young people, or do you have such in the Sacred Heart Sodality?
We surely do. And they normally get us into trouble sometimes. Let me just say, in terms of activities of the Sodality, we come in and we try to make them a little bit vibrant, and then we are also allowed to be young people within. I'll make you a simple example. In the Val d'Inari, normally the Sodality will be going to make a prison visit. When you get to the prison, there would be some kind of a church session, not done there. But now, as young people, we decided, no, we cannot be going to prison and with that only. We would do that, yes, just like the older people would be doing it, but we would just throw in a bit of soccer there. A bit of soccer there with the inmates. And it becomes fun. When we leave there, we find ourselves being fulfilled and having engaged them to a certain extent. Another simple example that one can give is, let's say we would be going to homes, visit kids that are orphans and all. But now with young people in, when you go to homes now, you go there with your soccer ball, and now it becomes more fun. It's unlike maybe before. It's a mixture of two now. It's no longer only old people doing things. They allow us to be young and do things in a certain way. Not so long ago, just before COVID, the Archdiocese wanted to go and visit the brothers at the seminary. It would obviously be mass, but when I spoke to the brothers, especially those that were in the SRC at the time, we were like, oh no, how about a game of soccer, because there's so many of us. And then Pretoria Diocese was like, no guys, you cannot come to Pretoria, and then we do not join you. So I love that. Then we ended up with 3 teams. as we were planning, how are you going to make this tournament? And having been part and parcel of acts, Rand Campus is there, Tekis is there. They're like, okay, no, fine, we can have a team of acts as well.
Oh, wow. So it just kept growing and growing.
Growing. And then, as you were planning and saying that, no, let's wait up until Holy Week, and then after Holy Week, then we will be going to the seminary. Then COVID hit. Then we ended up not going. So that's just a dimension in terms of young people in the sodality that we're trying to bring and making it fun. So I must say, there is a fun part of things that we do, and though, like I said, it gets us into trouble sometimes, but they are very accommodative. And the current presidents that we have, from the Interdiocesan President, Mekoleka, she's not here, to Ntate and Mekalinge now in the Archdiocese, they are very young at heart, so they allow us to be.
Oh, wonderful. I love that. I love how you explained the circle kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger, all for one purpose. And the fact that you as young people also have a home within. And I like how you're planning on doing this. Now you bring the fun and young element in it, and it's accommodated. And I really, really like hearing what you're sharing today. You're still listening to my Sodality, my pride, right here on Radio Veritas TV. We're journeying with the Sacred Heart Sodality, and today with Ntate Tlotliso, Boitumelo, and Ntate Lesego, just really sharing about the young side of the Sodality.
In a world where imagination knows no bounds, where a house is more than just a home, but a space of escape and relaxation, there exists a visionary named Soul Tubby Creations. Soul Tubby Creations is not just interior decorating and construction. They are a manifestation of your aspiration and dreams. With every piece, it ignites a spark of imagination in the hearts of those who live and experience their spaces. We personalize in creating spaces that reflect your style and taste, where creativity meets craftsmanship, making dreams come true, one room at a time. Discover the joy of being in a space created just for you. If you have the time, we have the quality.
Welcome back to my Sodality, my pride, right here on Radio Veritas TV. We are journeying with the Sacred Heart Sodality, getting to know and understand the Sodality better. I always say, at times, we see Sodality members wearing their uniforms in church, we see them praying together, but there's actually more that they do. And this particular program on Radio Veritas TV takes us behind the scenes of various sodalities. And this particular time, we're talking with the Sacred Heart Sodality, the young members of the Sacred Heart Sodality. Now, in closing, Ntate Lesego, you are the youngest president, and I want a message from you, a leadership message. There might be a young person listening to us now who feels like this job is too big, or who feels very overwhelmed with the leadership position that they might find themselves in. What message would you like to give that person listening to us today?
Okay, for those that have not yet joined and are interested in joining, I say don't rush into it. Take your time, go with them to the prayer meetings, attend with them, go to the AGM with them, the retreat, the revival, attend with them. Just get to know the sodality, get to know the spiritual side of it before you can get to know the physical part of it, because people rush to get this instead of the spirituality of the sodality. So get to know the spirituality, and once you feel that you are comfortable with this prayer life that we are living, then you can join formally. And for those who are full members, at some point you will be called up to a position of leadership. So don't be scared. We all start somewhere, and we have a vast range of experience in the sodality of leadership who will guide you, who will assist you. So you just have to shout for help, and we'll all be there to help you.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So if you find yourself in a position of leadership, don't be scared, as Ntate Lesego is saying. And I like the fact that you also have mentors within the sodality. Boitumelo, you are the secretary in the Klerksdorp Diocese. Now, in closing, what would you like to say to the members of the sodality in the diocese? What message would you like to give them?
The message I would like to give to all the members of Sacred Heart Sodality: invite God in all that you do. God will set your path straight.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Mme. And last but definitely not least, Ntate Tlotliso, who's been part of Radio Veritas events, who's always there. And it's also quite nice meeting you at this particular point in time where we're talking about the Sacred Heart Sodality. Now, the three of you are young. As a young person, what message do you have to another young person who is discerning and thinking maybe this is for them? Maybe they want to join the Sacred Heart Sodality, but not quite sure. What would you like to say to that person?
First thing would be kumnandi kwenhliziyo.
Kumnandi kwenhliziyo. Oh, wonderful.
Beyond that, as Ntate Lesego has said, one, before joining, it is important that you take this journey with them, not just be mukokoti for that year and then think that you know the sodality. Journey with them in all activities that they do, learn how do they do things and all that, and then you'll get to know that this is the type of sodality that I want to be part of. Then, because time and again you'll be seeing the fun part that we do, and the problem normally becomes that people see us very nice looking and dressed, and then in church, it's very fun, it's nice, and you think the sodality is only about that, and then you'll see that Tlotliso there and say, I want to be like him. But rather, journey with us first, and then get to know the sodality, then take a decision to say, I want to be part and parcel of this spiritual life and this fun that these people are journeying.
Wonderful. So it's not just about the uniform, it's not about how you look, how great and beautiful you look, but also the journey leading up to that. Not just the physical, but also inside. And I think that's a message all three of you have echoed today.
If I may mention something also to the sodality itself, to say to the elders, thank you a lot for accommodating us into this spiritual life. Thank you a lot for accommodating us and allowing us to be. And as we are journeying in this, it's very important that we say we are very respectful and we are mindful that we have entered your space and you have allowed us to enter your space. Thank you a lot for journeying with us.
And we'll leave it at that. Thank you a lot. I always say, never you miss an opportunity to say thank you. And I like what you're saying. Thank you to the elders. And now I'm saying thank you to the three of you for being here with me today, really just sharing about the Sacred Heart Sodality. You're watching My Sodality, My Pride with the Sacred Heart Sodality right here on Radio Veritas TV. And today I had the opportunity, the pleasure, the privilege of being with these three wonderful guests, and they were sharing about the youth side of the sodality. They were sharing about the activities that they participate in, but equally important about what it is about the sodality that really spoke to them, where they said, this is my home. Thank you very much, Ntate Lemme, for sharing with us. Do tune in next week right here on Radio Veritas TV when you bring you another episode of My Sodality, My Pride with Sacred Heart Sodality.